I'm going to call out Elon Musk for hypocrisy. We have this tweet from Shoe0nHead. She said, Elon Musk confirms he won't reinstate Alex Jones. However you feel about Alex Jones aside, am I wrong here? Like, not that there was much doubt before, but Elon just completely showed his ass. Elon said, my firstborn child died in my arms. I felt his last heartbeat. I have no mercy for anyone who would use the deaths of children for gain, politics, or fame. Now that's interesting. Alex Jones was not banned from Twitter for anything related to any kids. Alex Jones was banned from Twitter because he insulted Oliver Darcy. Elon is insulting a reporter, a bannable offense. Okay, ban yourself. I'll wait. Is Elon Musk going to ban himself? He's going to shut up? Okay, look, I can respect all of the good things he's done, the people he's unbanned, and I will accept the win. What I will not accept is, I will say it this way. It is not victory for the people that we are living beneath the whims of a billionaire. What is a victory for the people is a clear set of rules, policies, and procedures so we can all fairly understand the rules of the platform. Elon, it's your platform. I understand that. What are the rules? If you come out and tell me the rule is free speech, I say, you got it, boss. If you come out and say the rule is you can't say this, that, otherwise I'll say, okay, well, that's dumb, but you got it, boss. If you come out and tell me the rules are A, but then, oh, by the way, I have special rules for other people. Well, then your rules are garbage and completely meaningless. Now, what's really happening is you're unbanning people you like.
Well, that's a very interesting point. But what would you say to this is that what if in practice, in terms of how things cash out, it's actually maximizes free speech on Twitter to have an arbitrary system rather than to have a system that follows prescribed rules? Because you'd have to think, what kind of prescribed rules can he get away with? He could say what he said before, which is that the law of the land in terms of speech will govern speech policy on Twitter, which in the US would mean First Amendment. I don't know if that's practical given the implications.
I understand that. So let's ask where the line is. Insulting a reporter, is that a bannable offense? Is that in need of flexibility?
I think they would all need flexibility, but I think it's easier to think in terms of who would be let back on versus kind of neutral principles that are kind of applied retroactively. In practice, he can get away with more if he pursues the arbitrary approach. Of course. In terms of maximizing free speech on Twitter.
And he's giving himself a legal argument here because he's outright saying that for this personal reason, he will not be reinstating Alex Jones. I will stress, I absolutely feel and sympathize with Elon over this feeling of losing his son. I mean, it's a horrifying thing to have to experience, and I can respect and understand that. I just don't know what it has to do with Alex Jones insulting a reporter. Now, if we're going to argue there needs to be some flexibility, sure, but some things are within the bounds of the Overton window, and fine. Insulting a reporter, you don't get banned for it. Now, if you're arguing that there's harassment and what constitutes harassment, okay, now we're dealing with something more difficult.
Well, I'm saying more that at this stage, at least in practice, his assessment, and he could very well be right on this, is that he can't get away with allowing Alex Jones on. And he is probably imprudent. And I think he probably stepped over the line in attacking Jones the way he did. But the reality is probably he couldn't get Jones on. And that's the cost of doing all the other stuff that he's done.
Perhaps. I understand that. But I'm not going to apologize for Elon.
Oh, of course not.
I will accept the victories.
Right.
And we're seeing tremendous victories. It's funny. It's fun. We're laughing. There's jokes. There's memes. And all Elon had to do was not address the issue outright. It's probably the safest thing for him to do is, like, he's not addressed Carl Benjamin. We all want him unbanned. He's not addressed Milo. But he did specifically address Alex, then said he's not going to unban him because he did a thing 6 years prior to his Twitter ban that offends Elon. And that right there, I get it. Maybe he's going to have a legal argument in the future that clearly shows I will ban whoever I want for whatever reason. There's no rules whatsoever. And by doing so, if he does ban you, you can't sue him for breach of contract because he's clearly operating on a whim.
Right. I'm happy he's at least telling us where his flawed decision is coming from, because it's an illogical decision that shows you that there's no pathway to redemption. And he's using emotional trauma in order to justify this larger banning for something that Alex Jones has already apologized for. something that Alex Jones is being fined $1.5 billion for, something that, of course, cost Alex Jones almost everything. But at the end of the day here, if we're going to be punishing people for using children for their own political gain or fame, my original response to this was, hey, Elon Musk, have you heard of Barack Obama, the guy who dropped a bomb every 20 minutes for 8 years? The guy who extrajudiciously assassinated a 16-year-old American citizen? If we're going to be punishing people for hurting children, we might as well ban the president of the United States. Let's not even get into big pharma. We don't even have to go into big pharma.
Hold on there a minute. Joe Biden out there groping and sniffing kids right now. You gonna ban him?
That's a lot different than dropping a bomb on small children.
No, I get it. I'm saying Obama's not the president anymore. So we have that argument. So ban him, obviously. And Joe Biden, who's currently the president, is on camera groping and sniffing children. So how about we have a standard? Oh, that's the problem. There's no standard.
Do you think any off-platform behavior warrants a ban?
Nope.
Well, this is what Jack Conte of Patreon argued specifically. He created this new term, off-platform behavior.
Off-platform content.
Off-platform behavior, which is absolutely ridiculous. Because again, you're going to arbitrarily say you did this 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I don't like that you did this.
It's cancel culture.
It's cancel culture, but again, my personal preference, which I hope ultimately he'll be able to achieve, is the First Amendment standard. But he's a lot more practical than I think people realize. And the First Amendment standard, it sounds something very easily publicly defensible when you put it that way. But then you say, okay, First Amendment standard means all legal speech. That means that probably the most banned people on the internet, like Andrew Anglin, has to go on Twitter. I'm for that because I'm for the First Amendment standard. But as a matter of practical reality, that's a hell of a lot of incoming that Elon would have right up front. And so what kind of principles can you pick that would cash out better, at least in this initial stage, than what he's already done?
Then don't lie to me.
Don't say you believe in free speech when you don't.
If the assumption is that perhaps he's playing a game of 4D chess, 3D
Maybe
chess.
he has to.
And then he should not have addressed the issue at all. Because if your argument is he has to play the game, that means he's virtue signaling.
Right.
I don't care for virtue signaling. I don't care for being lied to. And I don't care for petty, I don't care, I shouldn't say it that way, but I don't care for personalized arguments as to why certain people are below the standards.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think he shouldn't have gone there and said, use the kid thing. That was unfortunate and crossed the line. And
he clearly doesn't know anything about it. Sorry to interrupt.
No, right. No, I agree. No, I'm totally with you there. I want the First Amendment standard. I'm just trying to put myself in Elon's shoes, and I'm thinking as much as we want a kind of neutral principled standard such that we can say, well, if you do this, what about this? Which is, how fairness operates. But in terms of the result, the kind of consequentialist view of it is that he can actually probably maximize free speech more if he does virtue signal a little bit, at least in these early stages.
There was something infuriating about Jack Dorsey and Vijaya Gadde lying to your face when you were like, hey, why was this person banned and why wasn't this person? When you'd say something like, hey, look, here's an Antifa account advocating for, instructing violence. And they go, oh, well, it's a mistake. And then they still won't take it down. When they tell you, we're working on it, there will be a path to redemption, I hear what you're saying, we're going to try and fix it. It's frustrating because they're lying to you.
True.
It's even worse when it's a billionaire who just says, too bad. It's one thing to be like, I can hold on to that 1% hope that Jack Dorsey means it when he says, we're going to find a way to get people back on the platform. We got to figure out how to do it. It's another thing when Elon Musk is like, I bought it. It's mine. Too bad. There's no rules. I can do whatever I want.
And if we can't trust him on this, what makes you think we can't trust him on other issues as well? This brings a lot of doubt and speculation because he's acting on emotion rather than morals and virtues. Rather than saying, hey, I believe in free speech. That means speech for people I despise. He says, no, I don't like him. But Elon, have you heard of a thing called Epstein's Island? There's a former president there that used to attend it, Bill Clinton. He's also on your platform right now. If you care about children and children being hurt now, you would be going after him, but he's not. And having this kind of made up scenario where you say he's okay, but he's not good based off your own emotional trauma is not something that gives me a lot of hope in this platform moving forward.
Do we all agree that the First Amendment should be the ultimate standard?
Free speech.
No. I disagree.
You disagree?
I think
with that?
even I think even higher principles.
For Twitter, I disagree. And on one issue, doxing.
Okay.
There's
fair
probably
enough.
the First Amendment doesn't cover criminal acts. There's challenges to whether or not something can be deemed criminal if it's speech. So
First Amendment minus doxing.
not necessarily. So listen. Some people are free speech absolutists. They believe that words can never be criminal no matter what you said. That means literally they think incitement to violence and instruction on how to do horrible things. And there's an interesting point there. If we argue that there is criminal speech in any capacity, we're arguing Congress can pass a statutory law criminalizing speech. That makes no sense, right? So the Supreme Court upholds basically that if you incite violence, that is not protected by the First Amendment. Now, my question is, I understand that. I understand the arguments. But how does that make sense? Congress isn't making the law. The Supreme Court just said, as we interpret what the First Amendment is supposed to mean, we've carved out an exception. Now, the Founding Fathers didn't carve out an exception. So there's an interesting argument there, because if we do agree that incitement to violence is criminal and not free speech, what happens if Congress or the Supreme Court, what happens if the Supreme Court, for instance, rules that actually hate speech is incitement because of stochastic terrorism? Are we going to continue to allow the courts to decide that there are larger and larger limits to speech? So I don't know that ultimately...
So you're saying the First Amendment standard is not good enough because it's subject to future kind of modifications from the Supreme Court's sort of interpretive development.
Because the First Amendment could be argued to mean you can incite to violence. And so there's limits beyond. So my point is this. In the future, the Supreme Court may rule that doxing someone is not free expression. It's actually an attack against or something. It's a violation of someone's privacy and thus criminal. It would be interesting if Congress ruled that posting someone's private information. This may be a court that has a case that has to be adjudicated, actually. If Congress tries passing a law saying posting someone's private home details or private information, phone number, contact, etc., without their permission constitutes a crime, the Supreme Court's going to have to determine whether or not that violates free speech, because posting someone's address doesn't really express your political opinion or views. And that's an argument some people make about what free speech is. Anyway, I don't want to make it overly complicated. The First Amendment is an easy thing to say, but we really do need bullet point breakdown of what is okay and what isn't. Gab, for instance, I believe bans doxing.
Okay.
And that's free speech. You could walk around with a big old sign with someone's address on it. But on Gab, you can't do that. I agree. I don't think you should be allowed to post someone's private details. I don't think there should be permanent bans for these things, however, because, I argued this to Jack Dorsey. There are people who commit murder and they get out in 25 years.
Sure.
There's a guy who posted a nasty meme, and you've permanently removed his ability to speak in the public square.
There's no redemption in according to the theology of cancellation.
I just want to point out the Clinton Global Initiative is on Twitter.
Yeah, there's a lot of war criminals and monsters. There's terrorist organizations that are on there openly using the platform without any kind of problems. When Twitter a couple years ago was looking at, of course, right-wing talking points that they needed to censor and take down. So it's crazy because this is a very important issue, and we can't underplay it because, yes, we got to celebrate our victories. Elon did incredible things on banning a lot of important people that were punished for their political speech, but if you're going to continue the punishment based on your own kind of made-up standards, that's something that doesn't give me hope. That's something that I think a lot of people should be skeptical of, and I think that's something that a lot of people should be criticizing him on because obviously it doesn't stand with any kind of virtue.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.